Hello everyone, welcome to this session on C# programming, where we will be covering up some interesting topics about developing an interface for order processing. So, what are we basically planning to do is to develop an interface which somewhat uh, would look like this finally, uh, that has you know like a professional look with the like a company name, organization name, details, date, customer details that come up, contact details of the customer. uh, there should be a mechanism to search for some products, so we would be able to easily search products, and for that purpose we can use a drop down box, uh, which allows us to select products, and then we can search the details of the products in a grid. uh, we can also have like a open text field kind of a search, like a text box search, where we can probably search with some more parameters here, like the example shows you. We can search by author or by publisher. Obviously the product in this case is books, so we can search that product by certain attributes that that particular product has. In different cases, it can be category, category type, or it can be, open search for any product that we have. And this grid would basically display the details of that product. Uh, this grid has been customized to obviously show selected information that comes from a table, like a product. In this case, this product is a book. So we're going to have a book ID, book title, author, publisher, edition, then the price of the book, and we have stock, that we have in our database, stock of that product in our database, and then we have created a quantity additional field here, which allows us to select the quantity of the product that we are adding to our invoice. And then on clicking of the add to invoice button, we will be able to add the books that we are purchasing to invoice items. We should be able to remove item if we have added anything by mistake, or we just want to uh, you know do the reverse the addition. uh, we can also add few more buttons here. If you like, you can have like a empty the whole invoice grid, or empty the whole invoice items. You can have that kind of also feature added to it, so you can clear the whole grid. We have like a text box here which calculates the amount, total amount of invoice, which comes after which comes as a product of the unit price with the quantity that comes as subtotal, and then eventually we have like a final total, like a final total amount, which displays us the overall invoice value of the item that we have. So let's look at the functionality, and the overall mechanism that we need in order to create this invoice. So with that, we will begin with our uh, creating our invoice that we need. For that purpose, let me quickly also try and open certain resources that would help us to do that. Apart from creating the interface that we will just discuss right now, first thing we need to do is we need to create a data table that would hold the data for us for processing the invoice data. So in order to do that, we would go to the dataset designer, and in dataset designer, we need to add a new data table. So here we would create a data table, uh, and we're going to add columns to it. So say for example, I've already created this data table. I'm just repeating these steps: book ID, uh, and eventually we will keep on adding more columns to it, like book title. Just like that, we will be adding all the data tables or all the other attributes to this data table. Uh, we can give a name to this data table by going to the name property, like here. I've already created a data table, so I won't follow the whole steps, but this is the process how you would do that. So this is like a data table you can create and keep on adding all the attributes. Now it's important to see what are the list of attributes we have added to this data table. It's book ID, book title, author, unit price, quantity, and subtotal. So we need these attributes in order to process our invoice better. One thing we need to understand that this data table that you create here, that we have just created here, is basically a virtual table. It's a data object that is there to hold data. It doesn't have any persistence, which means that once the application is closed, all the data that you have in this data table will not be saved anywhere. So this is a virtual table, as I mentioned. This data remains in the memory only as far as the application is executing and you are using this data table. Once the application is shut down, application is exited, no data persists in this data table that we have created. And that is the reason, sole purpose of creating this data table, because this data we only need to calculate invoice. Uh, the rest of the all the data that we need for that purpose basically is stored in our other uh, tables in our database. The data would come from different tables like books, uh, order table, and order line table will be used to store that information eventually. Um Customer, of course, is also one table from where we will be getting the data of the customer. So these are the tables, the key tables that we have, or you can call them as master, your main entities or your master tables, like book that represents your product, customer represents obviously the customer details, and then you have the order table that represents the or stores the order details that you have, like order number, order date, order amount, and customer ID, the customer who has basically placed an order. And then order line table will be used to store all the line items that have been ordered. So order line is basically a collection of all the items, all the product items that have been ordered, and that is the table we need for that. So these are all real database tables that you have in your database. Uh, there is definitely a relationship that exists between these tables at the moment. Since I already have data here and I have created some relationships in my SQL server, uh, I'm not basically very inclined to establish that, but you can definitely create relationships between these tables. The only problem here is when you are creating the relationship, like here in customer and order table. So the relationship, the parent table is customer and the child table is order. You can create a relationship which is cascade, or which is it has a you know both relation and a foreign key constraint, or you can have just a foreign key constraint. Update rule cascade means that any change that happens in the master table is also reflected in the child table. So you can create relationships also, I just demonstrated one relationship. But if you have data in your tables, which I have right now, sometimes when you are creating this relationship here, may also cause some kind of problems. So best thing is to create this relationship when you are designing your table. So you create your relationship right then and then. But if you have data, then after that, sometimes when you are designing the relationship, there may be some errors that may pop up, during that time. So this was just to demonstrate that yes, you can have a relationship between these tables, and you can implement the relationships between different tables. So this is the relationship here, which obviously is not very clearly visible. But if you look at slowly, a little bit carefully, there is like a primary key icon here, and there is an infinity icon here. So this shows one-to-many relationship between the customer and the order table. So you can do that. But here the main focus is basically on the invoice that data table that we have created. As I said, is a virtual table. It's not a real table. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here is, of course, we will try and create the interface that we need. Just to save time, I have, uh, just created a simple interface for time being. What do we have? We have some labels to store customer ID, customer first name, and we have a combo box here, which has been bound with the books, basically books table. So first we have added a binding source. As you can see, we have added a binding source and a few binding sources rather. So this, after you can simply drag and drop the binding source object from the toolbox that you find here. That you would see somewhere in the data section, under the data collection tab. Yeah, so here you have under data collection tab, you have binding source. So you will drag and drop and create your binding sources. Now this binding source has been, the first one that we created has been bound to books. So this is your binding source one. So once you put it down there, of course you can bound this, and we have covered this earlier. When you are creating a binding source, you would be doing some bindings, and that happens when you are basically when you are creating a data set, and in that data set you can bind a particular binding source uh, with a proper data member. So we have bound here this with books, as you can see here. So once we have done that, we can use this binding source to fetch data into any control, and here we are basically selecting binding source 1, as we have created this binding source, and we can display a particular attribute or bind this control with a particular attribute. We have bound it with, since this binding source 1 is bound with books table, so we're going to see all the attributes or the fields of your books table right here, like book ID, book title, genre, author, publisher, edition, ISBN, quantity, price, whatever we want, we can actually use it as a selection to bind the data from that field to this control. So we are using book title. We can also differentiate, the value member and selected value. So value member is basically whatever we are binding this to. So it is possible that you can display member, you can choose display member as a different attribute, and you can have your value member as different attribute. So which means that if you want to select the first value here for this book title, that will be book ID. So it will select the ID of the book while it will display the title of the book in the drop down box. So this is interesting because we basically work with the IDs when we are looking for a particular product. But we would find it convenient for display to display the description of that item or that product that we are dealing with. And in this case, this product is going to be a title of the book, which is obviously convenient for us to remember which book it is rather than dealing with book IDs. Book ID, randomly, if I say what is book ID 5, I won't remember that. So we human beings are not very comfortable working with IDs, but we are definitely comfortable working with more detailed or descriptive fields or values like book title. So this is just to create a context here. We can of course add more search fields. So what are we trying to do is we are trying to display some customer information here. And the next thing we're going to do is uh, a search for a particular product. You can also add more search fields if you want to, and I explained that, showed you that in that interface there. Like if you want to have a open text box kind of search, you can also do that. So say for example you want to search with the open text box, uh, that can be also done, uh, as we have discussed this earlier. So we can add more detailed searches, or other kind of attributes can also be used for searching. So this is in the case like search. Um, you can simply say search with author or publisher. So we can have more parameters for searching a particular product. And here, of course, we can use you know our a filter property, and I've got some code here which I will use to search based on an open text field like we have just mentioned. So in this text box, what we are doing is we on textbox.text change property, which means we just double click the text box. It creates a event procedure text change for us. We are using binding source one dot remove filter, that is to remove existing filter, and then we can add a new filter here, where we say binding source one dot filter is equal to author like, and we are picking up that value from text box one, and so forth. Now we have to be careful because if we already had text box one created, I think we had one using the interface. So this is text box two. So we have to be careful about these factors. So we would simply change this code to basically uh, text box 2. So what are we saying? Author like text box 2.text. Be careful about how you use concatenation operators to concatenate your SQL command. This is actually an SQL command, SQL statement. Author like, and you have wildcard search here. So, and after that you use your plus as concatenation operators to concatenate this section, which again closes the wildcard, and this is in single quotes. As you can see, this is enclosed in a single quote. The value will be picked up from text box 2 and used as a parameter value. or, and there's a or here, so you can search either by author or by publisher. So or publisher like, and again the same repetition of the certain syntax, like starting with single quotes, ending enclosing this in single quote with the percentile wildcard character signs, and of course this one is also going to be text box too. And then finally having this whole concatenated string in double quotes. So this is how we can create a search with multiple parameters, and it is quite useful for us to find our products. So that's the coding we will have behind it. I demonstrated earlier that we also have picked up the value of customer ID, and that comes from another form where we have a mechanism to search for customers. So we can search for customers using similar kind of mechanism, like having a text box based search, like we did just here, and then having a grid to filter out customers. It is important to have this search mechanism simply because we have a big list of customers. So you have to have some sort of a mechanism where you can easily search for certain entity, here in this case customers. Same applies to the products. You may have n number of products or a big list of products in your database. So again, you have to have some kind of a search mechanism to facilitate searching for the right product. So this is what we have for now in this interface. Next thing that we would be quite willing to introduce and add to our interface, of course, would be a grid. So we have obviously, you're going to go to the toolbox and you just drag and drop a grid here. What we have done with this grid is basically we have uh, done some editing here. So you can, of course, uh, you know, uh, try and add this, bind this grid with a binding source. Like here it is binding source 1, which is bound with the books table. So that will give us, the data from the books table. Eventually, it will bring all the fields of the book table to be displayed in this grid, which is, not very useful in many cases. We just need selected information to identify the product, and that is helpful. We don't need the whole set of information, the whole details of product, in this case, which is books. In this grid, what do we need is book ID may also not be needed, but if you think that helps to identify the particular item, it's fine. Book title, author, publisher, price, quantity on hand. This is being denoted as QOH. So what we can do is we can go to edit columns, and in edit columns we can remove or add fields. So what we have done, we have removed certain fields which were not needed. As I said, it would basically pick up a big list of fields that we have in our database. We don't need that. We will remove the unnecessary fields and keep only the fields we need. One thing we could do is we could add new fields. So what we have done is we have click you can click on add and you can add a new field. So first you're going to create an unbound column. You can just give that unbound column the name as I have given quantity, which is we have given right here, just for the sake of creating a duplicate one. I'm just giving it a name, uh, just to display. We can specify the type of this column. So what are we specifying this as? We are basically creating this as a combo box column. So data grid view combo box column. So this is what we need. So we get a drop down combo box, or like a drop down list box, and of course Uh, the name is here, and we can give a heading as, or simply call it as quantity. Once we click on add, we're going to see that we can add this field here. We have added this field here. We can bring it down into the sequence wherever we want it. So this is one extra field I just created for the sake of demonstration, although I don't need that, so I'll basically remove it. So you can see this quantity field qty has been here. We can provide values to this field that we have created. So definitely we can again go to this column and say edit columns, and there we can specify the column name, and we can specify a collection of values to it. So we can specify what values it will display. So we probably can give a list of values to it, just like that. So you can see this field will be displaying the set of values that we have created for us. So once you just run it, sometimes when you are debugging, uh, you may not feel very comfortable by running the whole application. Like we have been working on this application earlier as well, and we were creating login interface for different users. I demonstrated access control, like different user logs in, like if a manager logs in, gets a different set of menu options. If a salesperson logs in, gets a different set of menu options. So that was demonstrated earlier in the tutorial. Here we simply are trying to test some of our functionality. So to save time, we can go to program.cs, this file here, and change our a running form to not like in a typical example. You're going to start with the first form, and then from there you probably would carry on with other forms. We are developing this application in a MDI interface mode. So we have our first form, which is like a form with all the menu options on top of it, which is the MDI form that we have. And then we open many forms as child forms within this environment. So here in this case, we simply have this, order process 2, that is the form name. So we'll simply call this, the form name to be the first form to run. So we'll say application.run. This is the code that is already there. All you have to do is, it will have here the first form of your application mentioned. You just change this name to the form that you want to run directly when you run your application. So in this case, for testing purpose, we will simply say order process 2 form. And once we start this, we will see that this form will be running on a screen. Uh, since I have not started my VPN, I will get an error, of course. Let me start that. All right, it is imperative for us to start our VPN to connect to SQL Server. So obviously our global connect is connected now, and now we will execute our application. So once we execute, this is our that form that we have entered into our program.cs file. That was your order process 2 form has been up there. Since we are running this form in isolation, we don't have information like customer ID and customer name at this point of time. This is just to demonstrate some basic functionality. But what do we see, of course, is that by binding this particular drop-down box or combo box with the books table and books title table, we have all the books coming up in the list from your database. It is picking it up. Also, the information of the books is being displayed here in the grid. Why is that? Because we have also bound this with the binding source. Now, if the binding source of this drop-down list box, uh, initially, if you just bind them, they normally probably would be working quite independently or in isolation. That means the list is here, of course, but the data that you see here uh, is just being displayed. Unless you basically also specify a filter uh, property of this binding source to bind with the drop-down list box. So that means this data here in this drop-down list box will be independently displayed, and the data in the grid will be independently displayed. So what you need to do again, you need to basically go to the uh, you know uh, to the selected index change property event procedure to change the code and apply a filter there. So what are we doing? We are double clicking on this just like we do always. Combo box 1, this is the name of this combo box. Selected index change property event procedure is created, and we are putting up this filter here. So first we'll say binding source one dot remove filter. That is to remove any external filter which is there, because we will be using it multiple times. So once you apply a filter, that filter will stick to it. So if you just execute or you go and change the selection of the combo box, uh, remove filter would remove existing filter, and that will make it easier for to search for a new item. And then we have applied binding source one dot filter, and now we are saying the book title, that is the filter that we are applying to, should be the combo box dot selected item, whatever we have selected here. So we'll say combo box one dot text. There can be different property again that you can use it, but we are simply using the book title as a search field, which is quite simple. Or you can use other, you can also search it on, based on the value. So if you're picking up the combo box dot selected value, be careful that the selected value will be the book ID, not the book title. So you can also use that, rather than using the book title as selection, you can use a book ID as well. You can try different other combinations here. Apparently, this filter works best with the text field. So if certain ID fields, if it is declared as integer, might actually give some trouble. So better use it with like a simple text field like title, which is very easy to filter in that case. But you can try that. So once we start this, we're going to see that uh, this is our uh, the box, our combo box, which basically has the books that we have, in our system. So you can see that once we select a book, that particular book is filtered out, and that happens because we have applied a filter here, as I displayed in earlier, and remove filter removes that filter and allows you to refilter and select a different book. So you can see when we select a particular item, that item obviously is selected, uh, and it is easy for us to search. We created that quantity field. I created a duplicate field just to probably display that to you here, that this is, we have created a field. We already have one, so we don't need another one. So it was just to show that how you can add a drop down field to a grid. That is for demonstration purpose only. So meanwhile, we don't need that. The other thing what we can do is, of course, we can use this search box to filter our books. Like here, I want to filter a book by the name of you know, John Skeet. So you can see John Skeet has written Introduction to C Sharp. So we can use that as well. And as you have seen that it works quite beautifully. We can also use publisher here like Pearson. You can see as I'm using Pearson, it is only filtering the Pearson publishing books here. And we can see we have the books that is being written by. As you can see, we keep on typing it. It just filters out your data. Like I'm just saying P. You're going to see many publishers with P, and as I'll say PE, you're going to see that Pearson comes and Penguin comes here into the list. So it is easy for you to pick up the right product through the search mechanism. Of course, as you will further keep on typing down your keywords, like I'm typing PEA, obviously, now there's only one matching publisher, PEA, that's Pearson. Penguin is already out. So it works quite, it gives you a very sophisticated kind of a search. That is why I prefer this method. Um, and after that, of course, it allows you to select the quantity, and then we can add this quantity to the invoice. So we're going to be, looking at this functionality and look at some very important aspects while we are designing this interface, try to make it better and more sophisticated as we go along. Okay. Now, one thing we would do here is we will just remove this extra field that we added by going to the edit columns and remove this field that we simply added for demonstration. So we have selected fields only in our grid. Next thing we need to do is we need to add another binding source that you can of course go to the binding source and drag and drop it here. You're going to see that new binding source coming up in your context tray, and we call it binding source 2. This binding source 2 that we have just created will be bound with uh, you know the data member that we created, or the data table that we created earlier invoice. Now remember, this invoice was a data table that was created in our application. It is like a virtual table. It has nothing to do with your tables in your database that you have created earlier. So we have bound this binding source to with invoice. So once we have done that, we will be putting up a new data grid view here. And this data grid view that we are putting up here will be to cater to the items that we have selected uh, in our invoice. So this data grid view that we have, this second data grid that we have inserted, uh, called data grid view 2, will be bound with the binding source 2. Now remember, binding source 2 is bound with uh, the data table invoice. So all the fields that we created in data table invoice, which were book ID, book title, author, unit price, quantity, and subtotal, automatically they will be displayed in this data grid view 2. So that is what we have done. Of course, we will be adding these items to this data grid view 2 uh, first by searching them in data grid view 1, and on clicking on this add to invoice button, we will be adding them to our data grid view 2. So for that purpose, we will look at some code just now. So let's look at the programming of this button that we have here, add to invoice. On this button, click, that is button 2, click event procedure. We will be putting our code that would be adding rows to the invoice data table that we have created earlier. And since we have bound a data grid with that, that is your data grid view 2, it will display all the additions into this data grid. For that purpose, we will be writing some code. It's always better to put your code under try catch. So we've got some try catch here for you, uh, as you can see. So it's good to have try and catch and then put up your code to avoid any exception errors. Now, what we're doing here basically is, first thing is, we are creating a data row object. We call this data row object as dr in this case. So the syntax goes like this, where dr is equal to uh, dataset name, whatever your dataset name is, dot invoice, dot add new. I mean, it's basically a new invoice row method that will create a new invoice row. So we are creating a new invoice row, and that new invoice row basically is stored in a dr object. So then we will be adding various attributes, various fields or columns to this data row. What columns we are adding? Of course, we are adding the same columns that we have in the invoice data table. So we will be adding book ID, book title, author, unit price, quantity, and subtotal. Now this subtotal field is a calculated field here. So we will be calculating this subtotal by multiplying unit price and quantity together. So this is what we have, and that is what we will be displaying in the data grid view 2, that is our invoice grid. So all the products you have selected, you can add them to this data grid view 2, which will be like an invoice item that you are adding to your invoice. So look at the syntax here. So we will be using the same dr object, which is a data row object, and the book ID, that is the name of the field or title of the field. And then we are picking this value from data grid 1. So be careful about this syntax. Data grid view 1 dot rows. Now, if you want to have multiple selection of rows simultaneously, you have to use a for loop here. For simplicity, for demonstration purpose, I am at this point just using a first row, which is row 0. So we're going to put row 0 here, that means the first row selected in the first data grid view, and the cells with a 0 index value, which means the first cell, that dot value. This will give us basically the first value in the data grid, that is your book ID. So we are selecting the book ID from the previous data grid, which displays your products. In this case, the product is a book. And simultaneously, similarly, we are also picking up other attributes, uh, book title, author, which basically are falling in consecutive cells of your data grid. So data grid view 1 dot rows 0, which means the first row, cells 1, which means the second row, the second cell, sorry, dot value, which gives you the book title. Similarly, data row author field name will come from data grid view 1 dot row 0 cells 2, which means the third cell, dot value, and respectively you will be picking up unit price from cell 4 and quantity from cell 6. Now be careful, you may have to look at your design interface to see which row contains which data. So this is cell 0, book ID, cell 1 is book title, cell 2 is author, cell 3 is publisher. Say for example, I don't want to pick a publisher into my invoice list. I'm happy with my book title, book ID, and my author. Yes, I want to pick up price. So price is in, if you're going to count here from 0, 1, 2, 3, fourth cell. So I have to pick up the value of price from fourth cell, and then I have to pick up the quantity that is being selected. That is in, not in fifth cell, because fifth cell is basically quantity on hand, that is giving me a stock value, which is useful to display because you can demonstrate what changes are happening in your stock when you are processing your order, uh, and also you can put a validation here to ensure that the quantity that you select should always be less than quantity on hand, or it shouldn't be more than quantity on hand, of course, because that would result into an error. So just be careful about that. So this is your cell number, your cell with index value 6. So we were picking up quantity from index value 6, not from 5, because 5 displays quantity on hand. That is the the stock quantity that you have for your product, in this case books. So be careful about this. Once you have got it, you will obviously, you can specify, you can get your values into data row, and then from there you can, or you can directly pick it up from the grid, like in this case, data grid view dot rows 0 cell 4 dot value, which gives you the price, and then cell 6, index value 6, gives you the quantity that you have selected, because you need to convert them into basically you need to convert these values uh, to basically integer or double. This can be converted to decimal as well, or to double. So because this is price here, if your price is in decimal, you can use convert to double here. And then obviously this is quantity, so you can convert that into integer. Int 16 or int 32 will do the job for you. So this convert to int 32 and convert to double is needed to allow to perform the calculation, which is the multiplication of the price and the quantity, and that gives you the value of subtotal. Now if you are introducing any VAT calculations, you can also do that. You can also specify any VAT calculations here, 15% of the total value, or finally you can do that after you have calculated the invoice amount. You can also implement like a create a method or a function there to calculate VAT, and that you can also uh, append or add that value to the total value of your invoice. So that can be done. So once we have done that, we will simply look at executing this. So of course we have demonstrated some changes. Like we are selecting the book that we have selected here, and that is my first selected value. So if we still have some issue here with add to invoice. Let's see what is it. Okay, in our code, what is missing here is, of course, we have added different, uh, different fields to the data row, like book ID, title, and all of that. But what is missing is we haven't added a row, invoice row to our data set. So we have to add our data set uh, invoice, that is our data table that we have in our data set, and then add invoice row and specify the object name dr here to add that value to our data row. So once we have done that, we're going to be executing this again. Again, just selecting some values. I'm just using this field here, which is, you can see, even more convenient than selecting different values from there. But as you see, you select the value because these two controls are bound with the same binding source. You can see that they filter out the records as you keep on typing. So you can see the selected book title is automatically what is principles of information security here in this case, which is from Pearson. I searched the value based on publisher here. So once I've selected the value or made a, basically I've searched it, automatically you're going to see that my book ID is selected here. Uh, and just click on quantity and click on add to invoice. You can see that my item has been added to invoice. Now the problem that we normally have to counter here is that if we are again adding a new item to the invoice, of course we can add a second item as well. So say for example, let's add Orally, or maybe let's add Wiley. We have many books from Wiley, so let's add this uh, programming, in VB. Now we won't be able to select a value. Let's see if we will be able to select a value from, because we are not using a for loop yet, so we may still face some problems if we select a value from uh, second uh, row like this one here. Yeah, it won't allow us to select the value from the second row, so we have to be very clear in our search in this case. So I think in that case we have to select a specific book, like in this case Wiley. We have to select, like I'm selecting programming in Python, right? This time also the selection might give you a little trouble. So that is why there is a need to have those for loops, which I will demonstrate later. For the time being, we are simply selecting a book and adding that. So we have another book, programming in Python, into our invoice. The problem comes if we are, you know, probably adding the same book again. So what we are doing is we are selecting the same Python book and we are saying we want to add four more of it. So for example, in this case, we are getting a duplicate addition in our invoice, which we need to avoid. So in order to avoid this situation as we have here, also you can do a bit of uh, further specifying size to this grid that you have, because we are getting scroll bars here. Now getting this scroll bar is not a good thing. So what we can do, of course, is we can try and resize or specify the size of these columns to avoid the scroll bar. So there are a few interface design tweaking that you can definitely do. And the main purpose I want to demonstrate right now is, of course, that we are getting duplicate, books in our invoice. What should happen in this case is that the quantity should be, if we are adding the same book or same product, then the quantity should actually be appended, or rather be incremented, rather than creating a new duplicate invoice item. So programming in Python should actually, rather than showing two different instances, should actually add the quantity 2 and 4 together to show us a total of 6 books. So that is a very key factor when you are doing invoice processing or your order processing, and you are generating an invoice. So make sure that your invoice grid shows uh, increment of the quantity rather than showing duplicate items or duplicate product items in your invoice table, or even in your invoice grid, like in this data particular interface that we are developing here. So to avoid that, what are we going to do? We of course are going to apply a few more constructs. Basically, we need to apply a loop to find duplicate values, and after that we need to apply some code to actually increment the quantity of the invoice item rather than allowing a duplicate value to enter. Uh, Also, as I mentioned earlier to you briefly, that you can specify in edit columns, you can specify the size of different uh, the size or the width of different columns. So you can specify which what would be a suitable width, like for different columns here. So say for example I want book title to be more in a bigger width. Of course, I can specify book ID to be more of like size 80 here, because it's not a very wide column. Author, I want it to be 100. Unit price, again 90. So for example, quantity, I just want this to be 80, and subtotal can again be like 100. So we can have width specified that actually would help us to display our column width more appropriately. Just to show you, I would execute this again to demonstrate this. So you can see now that our grid down there doesn't have any scroll bar. This is what we basically want to have. So we want to make sure that we don't have any specific scroll bar, and we should be able to search our items and add them. So we can see that this looks better. We don't have any scroll bars now. We only have specific fields that we need, and that is good enough. The only problem we are trying to overcome right now is duplicate items that we are getting. If we add a different quantity, we need to take care of that. So in order to do that, what are we planning to do is basically we will be adding certain constructs here. As I said, we're going to be using a loop here to add items, but also selectively we may have to let's demonstrate that one by one. A few more things have to be handled, but let's demonstrate that one by one. So we will be using some code here, and this code has been already tried and tested. This code basically uses a loop. You can see here it is a for each loop. So the syntax goes like this: for each where existing row. Now this is basically just a variable declared uh, as a variable to store our dataset dot invoice object, which means the invoice object will be basically stored in it. And since we are having it now, our invoice object basically returns, if you say dataset name dot invoice, will return all the rows that you have in the invoice. But we are picking up each row and going through each row and picking up for any uh, you know any kind of duplicate value that we have. So if we have any book ID that is already existing in your invoice table, and it is also there in your invoice data table, and it is also present in your data grid that has been added, which means it's already existing in your that grid, invoice grid that we have already created. Then it will automatically increment the quantity there. So what is happening, if existing row, whatever the existing row is, it will loop through all the rows into the invoice table. So for each uh, existing row, as I said, this variable existing row, which is in the in a data structure or an array, that is your invoice. Invoice will return multiple rows. It will pick up each and every row, and for each row, it will do a condition check here. So if existing row dot book ID, that means we are picking up the existing row from the uh, data table. It is also matching with the object that we have created for the data table, and it is matching with the object that we have just selected a value from. So every selected value will be basically in this data row. So if the data row book ID has been already selected, and then we pick up the same duplicate value in the invoice data table, then this if condition is true, and in that case we will be declaring that there is a match, there is a duplicate value, and then we are going to increment the existing row quantity with the data row object quantity. So if you selected a new data row and you reselected it, that means the same book you have reselected, that quantity will be appended to the existing row quantity, and that is what would prevent that duplication that we have just seen now. So then existing row dot subtotal will also be calculated. So we are calculating the subtotal again. Existing row subtotal will be unit price into the new existing row quantity. So that means the quantity will be incremented. If the quantity will be incremented, of course, the subtotal will also change. So existing row dot subtotal will be also incremented with the change in quantity or incrementation of the quantity that we have. So this is what we have, and this loop will ensure that we are able to prevent that. The only problem here is going to be, and we will see what that would be. Once we execute this, we will see, okay, let's get rid of some errors here. Okay, we're missing one curly braces once we change some code here. So let's execute this. As we see now, we will be, selecting, say for example, a particular book. There is still some error. The statement here should be outside the loop actually. So we'll be putting it here, because once we have looped out with all the options that we have in our data row, then only there will be like a add new invoice row insertion of the items that we have here. So we will be putting this statement add invoice row outside the for each loop. So let's execute this and let's see. So we are getting our item being added to it. Let's add a duplicate item there. Of course, we're going to add two more of this book. Now, as we see here, that the quantity has been increased. Like we added, we actually clicked it twice rather. So we have added, but still we are getting a like a duplicate insertion. So then that means quantity has been incremented. As we can see, we added probably some books, but after that we're going to see that we have also have duplication that is still happening. So to get rid of that, we will still have to use some conditional a flag to basically control the insertion. So once we basically have a match in the row, we will make sure that the insertion happens after the match has been rectified, and then only the insertion happens. So in that case, we have to still modify this code. And what are we going to do now? Of course, is just like that. So we'll be declaring a Boolean type variable, like a flag variable, in order to conditionally insert values into this. So we will be having within the for loop, we will be having if we have a condition here, then we're going to be having a matching condition. That means if we have a match, so we created a boolean flag here. We initialize that with false. And once we find a duplicate match, we'll say match is equal to true. And if the match, and this will break the loop. And if the match is true, so the match is equal to true, that means the loop will break. And if the match is true, then we will be having a value being incremented. And if there is no match, then of course then we will be having, so that means we're going to have a code here that says if not match, which means that if match is false. So you can say if not match, or you can say if match equals false. So in that case, you will be inserting the value. So the condition here is that insertion should only happen after you have gone through the matching of the rows, and after that you will be inserting the values into it. Okay, so what are we doing here? We are saying if there is a match, then match will be true, and if there is no match, if no match, then then uh, we should add the value uh, to the invoice data table. So this is a small addition in the code, as we can see. So if there is no match, that means there is no match, then the insertion happens into the invoice data table. If there is a match, of course, it increases the quantity, and it carries on in the loop to find any matching duplicate values. So this is the overall code logic that we have implemented here, and let's see if that works. So we have selected a book here from Pearson. We add that to the invoice. If we select two more of that same book, we're going to see that it doesn't add a duplicate value, plus it increments the quantity. So we selected 3 first, and then we selected 2 more. So the total quantity now here is represented as 5, and it also does the calculation for us for unit price and quantity, and updates the subtotal value for us. So this is what we have done so far, and this is what we wanted to do. Of course, we can add more books. Uh, Say, for example, we want to add two of this alchemist. So we can see we can add more books to it, but as soon as we add a duplicate value and try and increment the value of any particular book, like in this case, we are adding 4 of alchemist, and we're going to see the quantity will be incremented to 6, and the subtotal will be automatically recalculated. So this is a proper way of processing your invoice. Any duplicate items should be avoided, and should not appear in your invoice. So that is the reason why we are doing it. So with that, now we will be looking at this remove item. We should be able to remove any row, basically, if we want to. So we're going to look at that button programming as well. Okay, while we are programming this button here, remove item, in this button, we simply have to remove items from the invoice. That is what we are trying to do. So we will be using our dataset object dot invoice you know data table that we created. Dot rows dot remover, and here we will be specifying the index of item that we are removing. So we will be saying, of course, data grid 2 that we had, data grid view 2 dot current row dot index property. So this would remove the selected row from data grid view 2. So that is what we've done so far, and we will be executing this. So just to demonstrate, uh, we have added some items to the list here. We can add another book. So and now say for example we are adding one more there, and we want to just remove one of them. So say for example I want to remove this middle one. Obviously I should be able to remove that. So this is where I should be able to remove the row. So you can manipulate your invoice uh, data grid view to make sure that you have the right content, the right items in your invoice. So there should be a flexibility for you to remove or to add any new rows that you prefer as you please, uh, and you should be able to make changes to the invoice before you finalize your final invoice. Now what do we need? This is what we have achieved so far. What do we need now is we should have our invoice total that is being calculated and displayed here. So uh, we will be we should be able to even automatically reflect any change in this invoice total whenever we are adding a new row or removing any row. So whenever we have to, like revisit a functionality, or rather reinitiate any functionality multiple times, it's always a good practice to put that into a method. So we will be creating a method to calculate invoice total, and we will be evoking that method at every change that happens in this grid. Even if we are adding a new row or we are removing a row, this method can be called up and it can automatically recalculate the total for us. So that is basically the idea and the motivation behind creating a new invoice. So we're going to look at that now. So this is the code. This is the coding of the function calculate invoice total. So what do we have? We have public, that is the access modifier here. Double, it should return a double a total of invoice value. Get total is the name of the function, and of course we have uh, uh, we have a double type variable that is initialized to 0 initially. So we create a double sum is equal to 0. After that, we're going to use a for each loop again to calculate the total of all the values, or all the subtotals that we have. That is basically in our data table. So for each existing row in data table invoice, this invoice is our data table. Uh, so it will pick up each value of this data table as in a variable called existing row. This variable name can be anything. It doesn't have to be it is being displayed here. You can call it anything you feel like. You can call it as a where item, simply where item in invoice. So you can even pick up an item in the invoice, and then obviously what we are doing here is, of course, we are adding the value using a increment assignment operator to the sum uh, variable that we declared here on the top, to store all the sum of all the subtotals that we have. So existing row, this is of course the variable that picks up each value from the invoice, and uh, this existing row dot subtotal, this obviously is an object variable. So that is why you can pick up a particular item or a particular member of this behaves like a like a collection object. So you're going to pick up existing row dot subtotal. So existing row, as we have declared here, is a object variable, and it will further have sub objects inside it, and the members, and these members will be the fields that we have declared in this invoice. Remember, we have a subtotal as one of the uh, you know column, which is actually a field value that we are using, and we are just picking up each and every subtotal from every single row and incrementing that to the existing sum value. So finally you get a collection, or what is called aggregation. This is called uh, you know aggregation or accumulation, we call it as. So this is the accumulation process that we are doing, accumulation of subtotal value. So subtotal is going to be accumulated into the sum variable, and finally you return the sum back. So whenever you're going to call this method get total, you will get the overall total being calculated. And we will be calling this in different ways. Like here also we will be calling it. So on click of button 3, I think this button 3 is your calculate invoice button. We're going to just check that just now. The text box dot text property will get the value from get total. Now the get total obviously will return a double value. As you can see, the return type here is double. The sum value which is returned here is a double, and that is why it is being declared as public double. So be careful about that. The return type of this method is a double, and that is why we say return, and this sum, a double variable, will return a value back to us. So this value has to be displayed in a text box. The text box dot text property only display values as string values. So you have to convert that into string. Uh, you can also specify the format here, and I normally advise you to specify. You can say, specify a currency format, that is C2, or you can display. You can use a numeric format, which I am using here as N2. The reason for that is, if you have set up your currency to dollar, then it will have a dollar value being displayed for you. Or if you have made that as a regional setting, then it will show rand, and it will show you that value into a format which contains a comma, and that comma format is sometimes a troublemaker for us. So you can use numeric value, N2, as a format, which is quite convenient to handle. So similarly, whenever we can also create another event procedure like row added here, like we have created a row added one here. So we can simply create a event procedure like row added, and that row added will be invoked whenever we are adding a new row. And on that row added method, we will obviously call this method get total. So whenever there is a new row addition, this get total method will be evoked and give you the total calculation. If you are removing a particular value, let's see, we probably would be removing a value. Then also you will be, you can, also call this method same time. Uh, Like we had this method, we created that method for removing a particular object somewhere. Where was that? We had for removing the values. Let's see. I think we had this remove item button here. Okay, that's where it's called button one. So I think we already had button for click somewhere, but that doesn't matter. We probably have been playing with this code. Yeah, we have one here, so we could have used it rather than creating a new one. So simply we can call this again here as well. So this is what we have here. So we can recall this method get total multiple times every time when there is a change. So if we are removing a row, this will be called up. If we are probably changing any row, and that is basically when we double click on this, we're going to see that cell content click, and that's what. So we're going to change that to row added basically. We have to reprogram this, this method here where we can again use this text box.text property get total, get the total value, format that into a particular a numeric with two decimal places, and that kind of thing. But one thing we have to do also is we have to look at probably if we have we may sometimes land up with some issues here. Let's see what is it. Uh, there may be an issue if we try to manually edit this. So let's use the event properties to do that. So we will double click on this grid. On double clicking of this grid, we basically create a default event procedure, that is data grid view to cell content click. So this is what we have, which is created. But then we have to go here and go to the events property here, as I'm clicking on the events property, and there I will change this click property to rows added. So this once we have done will change our code will see that this will obviously change to a row added once we have created this. Let's see if that happens. So so we're going to see now that it has changed to the property has changed to row added. So manually editing that sometimes create a problem. So you better you know double click on this first. Double click will create a, as I said, will create a data grid view to dot cell item content click property, as we have seen that earlier. So that cell content click property will appear here by default. But what you're going to do here is, and you can of course put your code into it. You're going to put that text box one dot text is equal to get total to string numerical value here. But what we're going to do here is we're going to go back to this and then click on the events property and change this cell content click property to row added. So we will be doing that, and once we have done that, we're going to see and we're going to save this. Don't forget to save it. Until you don't save it, you won't see that change happening in your code view. So once we go back to the code view, we see that data grid view to dot cell content change property or cell content click property has been changed to row added. So this is basically what we want, and of course we're going to see that whenever there is a recalculate subtotal on new row insertion. So whenever there is a new row inserted or added into the grid, you're going to see that this get total method will be executed, and that will give us the value that we are looking for. That is your total of invoice. So just to demonstrate that again, we will add a few items. We will just to test that our code is still working. We have changed the items. We can add few more books here, and we're going to click on add to invoice. When we're going to click on calculate invoice, we're going to see that our total is coming up here, and that is obviously in two decimal places. That's what we want. It does show you a comma here, but this comma doesn't really, it's only for the display of this item because it's a numeric format. It doesn't really create a problem when you are doing the insertion of this value into your tables in your database. So what is here is that if we say, for example, we're going to select this value and remove this value from here, we see that our total invoice total has been recalculated, and that is why we created that method get total. And that get total method is being recalled, being invoked on row change, whether it is removing a row, or whether it is being a new row being added. So if we add a new row again, as we're going to add, say for example, uh, another book here, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and we're going to click on add to invoice. So this has been added, and we click on calculate invoice. We see that now again, a new invoice has been created for us. So this is how we see that our invoice grid and invoice interface is very responsive. It adapts to the changes we do, and that's how it should be essentially. Of course, the main working example I demonstrated earlier actually connects or brings you to this interface after from the previous forms where you have logged in, you have searched for a particular customer, and after that you're going to get your other details. So we're going to demonstrate that as well, although I have shown you that earlier. So it's a kind of a connectivity that we need. So this is just to demonstrate the working of this interface, but essentially what we are doing is we are starting the process by first selecting a customer, and after that customer we are using this interface to calculate the invoice. Now what we also need is we got a button here as finalize sales, which means that whatever invoice items or products that we have selected, we need to insert that data into our tables as well. So we will perform one insert operation that will insert the order into our order table, and that will also insert our order line items. That means these individual invoice items that we have into our order line table. So this is what would complete this whole process, in terms of like order processing, so that the insertion of the data also happens in our database. Although there will be still one thing pending, and that is, of course, we need to update the stock levels also after we have done these insertions. So we will also look at these factors just now. Right. So to demonstrate this further, one thing we need to make sure that we are getting our customer details. So remember, we just changed this program.cs file here to execute this particular form that we were developing stage by stage. Initially, this was basically running form one, which is our first form that we have, and then we're going to just execute this, form one that we have. Sorry. So we changed it to order process to form. We need to rechange this to form one so we can run it from the beginning as we have been doing it before. So we made this change and we will execute this. So this is our form one as we have designed it earlier. We're going to do a login. We'll follow all the steps that we have been following so far. The person who's logging in is like a salesperson. So that is why we have made this as a admin console, and there's a sales admin who has logged in. And here we will be going through process orders. So this is where we have a search screen for searching customers. Now, say for example, I'm searching, I've got the same functionality for searching customer as I demonstrated for the books on the previous order processing form. So we have selected this Tom Hanks here, was a customer. We're going to click on this. So now you see we have selected the name, which is customer ID coming here, and customer first name coming up here as well. You can have more details added to it. You can basically make sure that the current date also comes up here. You can display the current date. So there are a lot of things that you can have, and also probably you want to put the company name and few company details, contact details, and all of that there as well. So once you have these details, then obviously, because you're going to need customer ID to insert the value into the order table. So you need customer ID. Now, next thing which is very important for us is that insert operation that we need to do for two tables. One is the order table, and another is uh, the order line table. So let's do with that. Let's begin that. Therefore, on clicking of this button, finalize sales, we should be able to, do the insertion of the data into our database, inserting values into order table as well as order line table. So that is when the order processing basically gets not really fully completed, but at least we'll have our data in our tables. We still have one more task to achieve, and that is updating the stock quantity of items that we have sold. Because when we process the sale, that should make sure that our stock items, the quantity of our products in our product table, as we could normally refer to, should also be updated whenever there is a sale that is done. So the quantity will be deducted from the product table, or the stock levels will obviously be deducted, whenever you make a sale. So that is what we have to achieve. To get that done, of course, there again, as I mentioned earlier, two ways of doing it. One is by writing your queries, and I have shown you that way as well. And I think that was one of the forms that I have earlier demonstrated. Was it any of these? Not sure. We had one of the forms here. Let's see if this was it, where I had demonstrated, the code way of doing it. One of the forms has it, if not this one, some other one. I think there was one of the forms that was used to demonstrate, the code way of implementing the coding. And then that was, of course, yeah, by writing the query. This is one of the examples. where you can create your SQL queries and then use your SQL connection con data source name. This is the search orders form that I have got here, and this is the code I'm referring to. And then after that, you open the connection, and then you can use the SQL command type, whatever the connection SQL command object you have created. Here it is com.command type is equal to command type of text. You create a SQL data adapter. The name of the object here is DA, and then you can execute this SQL data adapter object of the constructor with the query that you have created. This is basically here. So that query is just a string variable that contains the query, and that is passed as a parameter to this SQL adapter and the connection object itself. And you can write any query, whether it is an insert query, whether it is a select query. You can actually use it to insert the values into it. The only thing is, whenever you execute this, you have to specify, the dataset object name, and then you can, execute this, and you can even use that to fill the dataset object. And that is where now here we are displaying that into a data grid, and that is why in that data grid we are saying the data source, whatever the query executes, the results of that are shown in dataset object dot tables. So dataset object basically returns a collection of objects, and tables is one of them, because a dataset can have multiple tables. So you're going to have tables, and then tables zero. That means if you are only returning one table, if you have the dataset that is only mapped to one table, then obviously it will be that one, and it will display the dataset object whatever you have in that grid. So this is the coding view, one way of doing it. And here I have shown you a couple of examples here. Uh, Also, to manipulate the same data through the command, uh, and your SQL connection and SQL command objects. So this is another example that is here in the same form, search orders form that we have here. A couple of search criteria that are being used. Same thing can be used to write an insert query and execute the same thing. So this is one way of doing it. The other way I want to show you also is interesting to understand, and that is for that purpose you have to basically you have to basically create some SQL query functions. So you're going to go back to your dataset designer, as you can see right here in this slide, and you can of course write some insert queries there. So here we have our designer. You can just double click it. Uh, what do we need to do is we need to create an insert query for order table, and the other one is going to be we will be creating another one for a few other operations for order line table as well, of course. So we will be creating these these two dataset objects. So we will be following up, uh, if you want to look at this slide here. So we'll be selecting a particular table. We will right click on that table, and then select query, and then select add, and after that we will be creating our query functions. So this is the query function that we need to create for the order table. So this command is important, because we will be creating this insert into, and the table name is table order. Uh, the table order has been designed here in SQL management studio when you're creating your tables in such a way that uh, it generates a few values automatically. So if I want to show you that, I will just take a sec. So basically what is happening in my table is that my order table gets the order number automatically generated as an auto increment key, key value. While and also the order date is automatically generated as there's a record insertion. It will automatically pick up the current date as the order dates because the insert is happening, the order is being captured. So automatically the system order date should be automatically be captured because that's where the order is happening essentially. So then there is two fields left to be manipulated or to be inserted. One is the order amount. The order amount is of course the order that you have the generated and the invoice that you just saw in the previous demonstration. So we have generated the order amount, and then second thing is the customer ID for which this order is being captured. So we selected a customer. Example I showed you, we selected, let's say for example Tom Hanks, whose customer ID I remember was 7. And then we obviously had a particular order being processed. So there was a certain order amount that we had. Can't remember that. So that has to be inserted into the order table. So these two values will be inserted, and the values that will be inserted, of course, will be you can see the parameters here. So we're going to supply these values as parameters: order amount and cust ID. And after that, what is interesting to know is that we will be using we need to capture the last order ID after the insertion happens. And we need to inform the customer, that this is your order number. We may have to even display that order number, once you click on finalize order. So there is an order number which is displayed for printing. So if you want to print this invoice or you want to email this invoice to the customer, probably you will be converting that into a PDF and then emailing it. In both cases, you will be capturing the order number, and that order number needs to be communicated to the customer so the customer knows what is the order number, right? So that can be done using scope identity method. If you are using the coding way, as I explained to you the coding way, you can use a function called select max a value. So what I basically mean here is that you can choose something like a select query with a max value. So that is also possible, which can be done uh, in order to achieve that. So what is interesting here, that select, you may not have to select all the fields. You can simply select order number. Here this default query has select order number, order amount, customer ID from table order, where order number is equal to scope identity. Now this is very important. This one statement is important because the scope identity will give you, in return, the last order number that you have inserted after the insertion is completed, and that will be the order number of this particular order that has been just inserted into your table. So it is very important to understand this concept. As I said, in coding you can simply use max method. You can say select max order number. Max order number will give you the last order number that you have in your database, and you can increment that last order number with 1, because mostly the order numbers will be incremented by 1. So if you had the last order number 50 sitting in your order table, this new order that you just created now will obviously have a order number as 51. So you can pick up the max order number and add 1 to it. So that obviously will increment that from 50 to 51. And that will be displayed or should be displayed as a new order number in this order you have created. And then that invoice will carry that order number for you, and then you can email that to the client, to the customer, or you can obviously, print that if you would like to. So this is important to understand the concept of this insert query. This insert query will be created as a insert method, as I said, and it is you're going to click on right click on order table, go to add query, and after that you will be putting this insert order query text into it. So we will be trying to demonstrate that as well. Just right here we are in our designer, database designer, dataset designer, and then we're going to right click, add query. We'll uh, uh, use SQL statement, the first option, and we will use a insert query, insert option with the query type. So once we have it, you can see that we are getting a default code here, insert into table order, and we're going to have a lot of other items coming up here. I think I should also show you, what I have in my uh, database design or the design of this table order to get a clear understanding why we are doing this. For the time being, let's click on query builder. You can simply delete certain items if you don't want that. Like I've already created this particular query there, insert query for you. You can see it is right there in this table. Insert into if you're going to click on query builder, you can see that uh, you can update this the way you want to update it. So we go to the query builder and we can of course you know select what value we want to insert. So you can see by default there are default values coming up here, order date and all of that. uh, as I said, my order date will automatically be coming up from the table. All I need to insert is basically customer ID and the order. So these are two values that I'm inserting. I'm not inserting other values here. So if you're going to see that, this is how it will look like. Uh, Insert into table order, order amount, cost ID, values. Whenever you are giving specific fields, that means you're not giving all the fields. You have to specify the field names or the column names of the table in the right order. So you have to specify them in the right order. So if it is order amount first and customer ID afterwards, that means, and that is how it is if you look at my order table sequence of fields. So you have order number, order date, order amount, and customer ID. So I have to give them in the same order. And values, of course, will be passed as parameters. So that is why we have at the rate order amount and at the rate customer ID here. And then we have this, select statement where it selects the value from the order table. By default, it generates it. What is just important is that, your order number is going to be a scope identity. You have to just be careful about that. So once you have done this, you're going to click on next. You will call it as insert query as I'm calling it here, and then click on finish. Uh, so once you've done that, you're going to see that your insert query has appeared right here in this order table. This is your insert query that we will be executing. Uh, and it's important to understand why we have this. So this is the insert query we have just generated. Similarly, we will be generating, another query, insert query for order line table as well, that we will be creating. But this insert query is important because we are using a scope identity here to get a value. Now we will be looking at some code that we have, and let's look at that. Okay, one thing I need to mention here is that whenever you create a insert query, the insert query as we have created here, and you must check the properties that the insert query execute mode is known query. So whenever you have an insert query, make sure that you execute that as known query. There are few more modes, we will talk about them and we will be using them. If we are basically only using one single return value from a SQL query, we use scalar as a execute mode, which means in that case the first value will be returned to you, even if it returns a multiple values as a query, because your table contains multiple values. The first value will be utilized here in case scalar execute mode scalar has been used, and the reader is also a similar mode, which basically returns data just for reading, not for any updation. So any insert query option will be a known query execution. That's you have to change execute mode if you need to. So with that, uh, we're going to look at the interface design that we have. So we have this finalize sales button here, and on this button click we want to basically make sure that we are able to insert values that we want to. So this is your insert uh, into, insert your order details into the table name. In my case is table order. I mentioned why I named it as table order. Don't keep it order, otherwise you have to use those scope resolution, square brackets everywhere you're writing your queries. That becomes quite a job. You better either call your table as orders, an order with s, to differentiate this by order by clause that your SQL parser uses, and that's how it interprets. So either you call it as orders table, or you can call it as, like in my case I'm calling it as tbl underscore order. So just keep it different. Don't just call it as a simple order. Don't use that, because that will create some problems later on to you. So we have this, and then next thing we need to do, of course, is to write the code for inserting the values into order table. I've already got my codes here, so I will be just saving my time by simply copying this code here. But before I go forward with that, I also wanted to show you a few things, like okay, I have to create a binding source for this table order, probably which I haven't created in my form. So that binding source 3 has to be bound with order table. So let's do that as well. So my binding source object will be here. This is my binding source 3. Binding source 3 would be changed to uh, you need to, once you click on this event tab, it obviously would be always showing the events. So click on the property page, the property tab once again. I think you need to sort of yeah, click on property tab once again. That gives you a property tab, and this is your binding source 3. Of course need to readjust these things. So the data source here is going to be you know of course my binding source 3 here has to be again I have to go to the binding of the properties. Is that? Yeah, I have to select the binding source. Uh, other data sources, data set is here, and I have to select my data member as uh, table order. So my binding source 3 is bound to table order. That is basically what I need to do. So once you have it, of course, you're going to see that this code is looking fine now. There's no errors here. I just wanted to show you quickly that the table structure that I have for my table order, I would say that the design uh, of this table order, uh, to understand the concept better, is that this order number here is a data type int, which is an auto-generated key, and of course, for that I have identity specification has been set to yes. So identity specification is identity has been set to yes. Normally it is no, so you need to change it to yes. Identity increment has been set to 1 and identity seed has been set to 1. What does this mean? That identity specification is identity means this is a identity, that means it's a key field, it's a primary key field. We have uh, basically indicated this as a key field. As you can see, this icon here shows it as a key field. Is identity yes means that it will be used as an identity whenever we generate this field here. uh, Basically, I'll just uh, reset it to no. You can see is identity is yes. Identity increment is 1, which means it will be incremented by 1 wherever there is a new order that has been added to your database. Identity seed is also 1, which means it will start from a seed value of 1. So the first order will have a seed value of 1, and after that this seed value, you can start from a different seed value. I mean, if you want to start from like 100, probably you want to give an impression that you have so many customers, you know uh, to your other customers. Probably you can start a seed value from 100 and it counts from 100 to 101 and 102, 103. If you're starting your count from 1, probably your customers will see, oh, I am customer number 2. That means there are very few customers this business has. So it just depends on you, how you want to implement this. It's completely, you can start a seed value, whatever seed value you prefer, and from there it will start your count of your order number, right? Or your customer ID or whatever it is. So you can implement this way. And the other thing is that order date here has been also implemented with a default value as get date, as you can see here. So that means the current date will automatically be inserted whenever I'm inserting any value into my order table. So that is always considered to be a good programming practice, that whatever value you can, whatever minimum insertion, can do the job for you, uh, should be used, and you should make sure that your transactions to the database becomes minimalistic. So that is one thing, and that is why it motivates a programmer to use stored procedures. Now, in stored procedures, you are basically implementing a lot of business logic directly into the SQL server. You know that means that you can create a function, like we just created a function, to calculate order amount. I'm just giving an example, although in that case that is as necessary because you need to manipulate, that data. You should be able to add and remove invoice items, and then you should be able to recalculate the total. But just in case if there is some calculation that doesn't need to be very much manipulated every time, you can simply create a stored procedure. That stored procedure will probably just take some parameter, do the calculations based on the the business logic you have applied, and then eventually will update the database. That stored procedure executes very efficiently, very fast, because they are executing directly at the uh, database level at your backend. They are not executing in a middle business logic layer, as it happens when you are basically writing the code in your forms, like in this example. So that is considered to be more efficient practice plus more safe practice, because the data that goes to the database is probably some parameter values, and whatever happens as a business logic is all hidden in the database itself. So stored procedures, you can probably study a little bit of that. That is completely from your learning perspective. It's not necessary to implement in any case, but in this case, when you are just developing a small application, it may not show a big significant difference. But if you are developing applications that deals with huge amount of data transactions, these things definitely bring optimization and performance in your applications if you are using them. So that is just to uh, provide some clarity on what different kind of database design structures you can use. So I'm just using a default value here, get date, as you can see. So my table would just need an order number and a order amount, uh, and not even order number, because order number has to be automatically generated, but I need to track this order number to tell my customer what is the new order number that has been generated. So for that purpose, I have used that scope identity method that I mentioned about earlier. So this is the data structure that we have, just to show you this. And coming back to the code that we have, uh, this is the code we have. So we will be, of course, inserting certain values. I've created an integer type order number just to capture the value that is returned by the insert query that is executed on the order table. So here, uh, that is why this comment tells you obtain the last key insert value using scope identity in insert query. Uh, and very important that when you are using this, the execute mode should be scalar in the data source properties. So when you are executing this, execute this as scalar. And this is the same thing I think I would have mentioned in my slides as well. So if you look at here, create a query method insert query with SQL code as below, as I've shown you. This uses scope identity method that returns the last order number after insertion of a new row in table order. And then make sure that once you insert this scope identity, uh, since we are using the execute mode should be converted to scalar, not to a known query, as I mentioned earlier. So where are we with our dataset values over here? So there you're going to see that execute mode should be converted to scalar. So that will only return one value after this insertion, and that one value that it will return back to you will be the order number. So this insert query will provide you the order number. So that is why we have that right over here. So uh, there is just a message box to show that a new order has been added, and the order number is whatever the order number value is being inserted. Now it's interesting to look at this query here. When you are inserting, you are basically using this insert query. You will specify the order, the table adapter name. So table order, table adapter. You have to create a table adapter if we haven't created one. So that is also important. So here basically you will be using a new table adapter uh, wherever you need to use this. So there will be a table adapter uh, that is going to be created. So essentially, when you have created a data source, uh, this table adapter is automatically created for you. So this table adapter is here. So if you created a binding source and you have bound that to a particular data source, like we did that, and we bound it to binding source 3, and we created a data member here by selecting the member of the binding source property as a data member. Automatically a table adapter will be created for you. So here you have the table adapter, and you will be using this table adapter. Now, interesting thing, since you are using the you are using the insert query, and insert query, you will be inserting a value from text box 2. Well, this is basically where you have your invoice amount. Your total invoice amount is going to be in text box 2 here. So look at that. This is your text box 2 here. Okay, this is your text box 1 in this case, right? So you have to correct that. Basically, text box 2 is the other one. So you will be inserting text box 1 because that was the text box I have here. So insert into text box 1 dot text. You need to convert this value. Now imagine, because you are inserting a, a, a invoice amount, which is a decimal value. So you need to convert that into decimal or double. So be careful about that. This conversion has to be done because your data type in your table, if I want to show you again, is basically, as you can see, order amount is money here. So money is, again, it is a decimal or a double type of data type. It's not basically text, or it's not simply a string data type as you normally know it. There are many different data types that you use for text, which is varchar and char data types. Varchar obviously gives you the flexibility of putting up a different size of values, text values into your field. So here it is money. That is why we have data type, and that is why we need to convert this to decimal. So text box 1 dot text will be converted to decimal. And the second thing we are inserting, of course, is the cust ID. Now I showed you again the customer ID. Yeah, that is the cust ID. So the cust ID I have here is int. Now you have to be consistent with the customer data types, or sorry, with the data types whenever you have. So if you created your customer ID, as uh, int, and I have created my customer ID again as int, and this is again a auto increment kind of a key. It's a primary key with auto increment. As you can see here again, it has identity specification uh, to is identity is equal to yes, identity increment 1, and identity seed again as 1. As I said, you can again change the seed value to like 100. It will start counting from 100 onwards, 101, 102, so forth. But in any case, you need to understand that this is an int data type that you are using. If it is auto increment, you have to use int. So that is why we have to be consistent. And when you are also having the same data type in your in your like order table, in order table also you have to have customer ID as int. So there has to be consistency, and that is the reason why you have to convert this back into int. So what I'm picking up this value, obviously I'm picking this value from a particular search customer form. Now I mentioned to you earlier that in search customer form, from where I'm getting my customer ID, I have made sure that I have created these variables: customer ID, customer first name, and other details I need, whatever I need, basically as public static. So when I'm using public static and the data type is string, obviously I will be able to pick them up into my other forms. So I've been able to pick them up here, and that is why I'm getting my search cust ID. These variables I'm getting from there because I initially searched these values and filtered out the customer for which I'm doing the order processing. So I need the customer ID, which I got from the previous form, search cust, and I got it because I declared them as public static, as I showed you just here. I got them as public static string cust ID. So you would be able to get this. The scope of this will become across different forms. It becomes a public, like a global variable, and if it is like a global, here it is called public static. So it is auto initialized, and it is available as a public member to all the forms, to all the classes essentially that you have. And here we are referring to this particular class over here. So we're going to get the customer ID from there, and once we have this customer ID, we will be able to insert this. Now look at this. When we going to execute this insert query, so table adapter dot insert query with two parameter values. As you can see, we created this value with two parameter values. One was order amount, another was, if I expand this, cust ID. So two parameter values will be given to insert query, and that is why we have given these values to the insert query method here. But we need to convert them to decimal and another one to integer to make them compatible with our table field data types. So that is important. Once you have done it, once this insert query will be executed, since we have uh, you know uh, we have this, if I want to show you this code here, where it inserts order number is equal to scope identity, and it has a select, I'm using a select clause here. It will return a value, but it will return that value as a scalar. So the scalar value means only one value will be returned, which will be the last order number. So this last order number is what we need to capture, and that is what we have captured here in this int order number we declared, and we said order number is equal to this thing, whatever the order number is being returned by the insert query. So insert query will execute, will create a new order number in the table. So if, say for example, you already had 50 orders in your table, this new order that will be inserted will be order number 51, and it will insert the last order number value to it. So if I want to just ensure to show that what do I have in my order table, uh, there has been a lot of testing here, so we can see that the last order number is 2060. You may sometimes see that some of your order numbers, if you're you have done a lot of debugging, the order number sequence might automatically change as well, and especially that happens if you have deleted some records from your table. That may like sort of sometimes scramble your seed value automatically, and that's what happens sometimes. So that can happen, but that's not a big problem. It's still all right, so no problem with that. So my last one is 2060, as you can see, 2060, sorry. So let's look at that then, and execute this. uh, I might select a different customer ID this time. Let's go with the uh, Parker. Customer ID is 4. So just keep that in mind. Okay, we still have some error here. Let's sort that out. The filter more constraints, one of the more items containing. Yeah, that's what sometimes happens when you have specified a relationship, after you have got data into your tables. So what you need to do is, let's see if this gets sorted out. by simply removing this relationship that I demonstrated to you. Just delete that uh, and try this running this again, this query again. So we remove this relationship and let's see if uh, we still have a problem. Check my password is fine, yeah. Okay, so now we have customer ID 4. Customer first name is Hasina, as you can see right here. We're going to just test this by just creating one simple order value here. So I've got a quantity add to invoice. So calculate invoice. So I have 1700 as invoice amount, as you can see right here. I'm going to click on finalize sales. You can see my new order added has been 2061. I showed you the last order and the last order was 2060. So this is a new order that has been inserted into the order table. Of course, if you're going to go and relook at the tables, you will see uh, you're going to see that uh, this table over here will show the new order that has been inserted. So let's go down there and see. So we have this last order, as you can see right here. We have this last order here, which has been created. Order number is auto incremented as I showed you, and that scope identity gives us the last order number, which is being returned back to us. This can be captured and displayed on your form, as order number for printing, and I think it should be captured and displayed, as a new order number. You can also generate a PDF with the order number. The PDF can be saved as specific order number. That can be done. You're going to see that the date here is being, of course, 30th April coming up to you, and obviously the order amount was 1700. The customer ID was 4, as you can see in the as you can see in the execution. Customer ID is 4 and the name of the customer is Hasina. So that is what we are picking up from the customer table. So customer ID 4 and the order value is 1700. So that has been captured, as we can see, successfully in our order table. The next step we need to do is we need to also insert order line items into the order line table. So this is our order line table. Order line table obviously has these fields as I'm showing to you: order number, book ID, price, and units. So this is the basic information that you need in your order line table. What is the order number? You're going to see that order number will be repeated if you have multiple items uh, in a particular order. Order number will always be, if you have, say, for example, 4 items that you ordered. So for 4 items, and if I want to show you this table, you will see that what I'm trying to explain to you. So you're going to see that there are many orders here, like from here to here. Uh, the order number was same. You can see this order. Order number is 2059. The second one also is order number 2059, which means that these 2 items, book ID 1 and book ID 9, were ordered together as one order. So these 2 items were part of the same order. Similarly, you can see many same repetitions Like here you're going to see, again there's a repetition, which means these two items were part of the same order. And similarly, these two items, 9 and 10, were part of same order, 2055, that is the order number 2055. Similarly, you're going to see that there may be many items like here, well, this was the initial stage of testing. Order number 37, 37, 37, the order number is being repeated. But the book ID are different. So book ID 1, 3 units ordered, that was the price 140. Uh, book ID 2 was again part of the same order number 37, and basically four items, 4 units were ordered. Again, book ID 5 was also part of the same order number, and there were 3 units ordered. So you can see one order consists of multiple items, and that is what you have in order line. So these items, of course, are represented here, as you can see in your table. If you have selected, like multiple books, uh, like I've got 2 items or more than 2 items. So you can see they all will be part of the same order number. So I need to do a multiple insertion into my order line table for all these items. So I will be inserting this book ID, obviously the quantity. I can still insert the unit price, although that unit price can be derived from the book table. But for convenience, we can just have some redundancy, and then state like have the price there. And this is what basically the basic information should be in our order line table. But since we have to do multiple insertions, we have to use a for loop again. We have to read all these values. Just recall that we created this invoice as a data table. So we need to run through the each row of this data table, capture each every item, each every product that we have in this invoice data table, and then do a insertion of that. So we need to run like an insert command, obviously in a loop, to achieve this functionality. So for that purpose, we will be now focusing on the next stage of this insertion, which will be inserting into order line table. So for that purpose, we will be again creating a SQL query function. So let's look at that. Uh, okay, we're going to look at this code here. In fact, we can do without creating an insert query function. You can do other way as well, but we can simply use, you know, or add order line row object for inserting the values into this. So all we do is we basically use the dataset object, and we can create a new order line row method. So let's look at this code. This is the code that would insert the data into order line table. So we obviously have to pick up each row, and we're going to pick up that each row using a for each loop, as you can see right here. For each, again, we're going to use the same var existing row. This object name can be anything. It's a object type variable. It will store one particular row at a time, and the syntax is where existing row in uh, Kumar D dataset.invoice. Now here also you can actually use a row count as well. So you can use a for loop where you would say for I is equal to simply like take initial value initializer, like I is equal to 0, and then we have to run this for loop while I is less than invoice dot rows.count. So you can also use invoice.row.count, and then you increment I plus plus like a for loop which runs. But in this case, you're going to run for the number of count of rows that you have in the invoice table. If I want to show you that piece of code, probably I'll show you the piece of code I might have implemented somewhere. Uh, okay, it's going to be, yeah, this form here. You can use a code like that. Uh, you can run it till the rows.count -1. So or you can simply use it for invoice.rows.count -1. So that is another way of implementing the same function with the for loop. So that is what you can do. Coming back to the same code that we are talking about. So here we are using a for each loop. uh, Sorry, for each where existing row in dataset name.invoice. This will execute as many rows are there in the invoice. So for each loop is a very convenient loop. You don't have to worry about, like if you put the comparison operators incorrectly, you will land up in a array out of bound exception and all those things. That doesn't happen if you are using for each. So it's more convenient. And then we have a data row where data row is equal to again dataset name dot table name order line in this case dot new order line row. So we are creating a new order line row, and of course this new order line row will have data. We created that variable order number. You can remember int order number we created to capture the last order number from the query insert query with the scope identity use of scope identity function. So that is the order number we are using, and we are capturing that into data row field. The field name is order number. We are getting the book ID again from the same invoice table. So you can see that this existing row is an object row of invoice data table. So the data table existing row dot book ID obviously is the book ID that we have got in our invoice, and that goes into data row as book ID. These data row headings should be the same as your table headings. So if your table heading is book underscore ID, make sure that you use the same field names or the column names as you have in your table in your data row as well. Otherwise, you're going to get an error. Again, we have existing row dot unit price. Again, this is a price as a header, as a field name in uh, your order line table. Make sure when you are writing this code, you also have a look at your your table like order line here. Like you have order number, book ID is book underscore ID, and price and units. So your field names should be consistent uh, with the your table name, table field names. So we have book ID, we have data row book field name as price. The other field name is units, as I showed you here. It is units. So just compare them. Just make sure you don't have a mismatch of the field names in your database table. And of course, these names here are data table names. So they are different. Here, the book ID is book ID, no, not book underscore ID. If I want to, just make you double sure about this, you're going to look at the data set here. So here you have book ID continuously without underscore. So in this invoice table. So that is the difference. Here we are picking up the values of what we have created in our invoice data table, and that is why we have book ID. And that, but the data row field name should be exactly what you have in the table, and that is how we have book ID, price, units. And finally we implement the code as dataset name dot order line dot add order line row dr. And this is basically in a, as you can see, this is in a for each loop. So it will run as many rows you have in your invoice table. That is why it is important to have them in a for loop and or in a for each loop. And that is the code that we are referring to. So when we're going to implement this code, let's do that. So let's pick this code, and we're going to do other things right there. So this was our interface, finalize sales. So we have already done the insertion into the order table. We need to do the next insertion into the order line table. So in order line table, of course, we have appended this code on the same button click, insert into table order line table for each row of the invoice data table. So that is what we are doing for each existing row in dataset name.invoice. Uh, we have created a object variable of data row and used new order line row as a method for table order line. And after that, we have just captured all the values as order number, book ID, price, units, and so forth. And then we execute dataset.orderLine, add order line row, and the object variable dr comes here as a parameter. So this is our code for inserting the values into table order line. Once we have done that, we will simply execute this. So let's do that. Again, our sales admin logs in. We're going to pick up a particular customer, a few books, add another one. Uh, we have a couple of books, and then we're going to click on calculate invoice. We have two books. We have book ID 3. We have book ID 10. The customer is customer ID is 4. So these are a few things, and an amount of 1740. We're going to click on finalize sales. So the new order that has been added is 2062. All right, and hopefully we will see that our insertion is working. Let's check that out. So we got our order line table. I'm going to remove all of these and again open my order line table to check. So we can see here that if you look at this thing, probably I should have also printed that order or captured that order number somewhere on this. I think I just need another label here which would capture the the order number for me. At this time, I don't have it, but what we can make out, of course, is that customer ID was 4, book ID was 3, and another book ID was 10. So we have, uh, you know, looks like we have some error here in this because book ID 3 and book ID 10. Yeah, looks like we have some error in this. Probably we need to check that. What is the reason we didn't get the online table having the right? Okay, just a second. Yeah, we probably are not getting insert here. We're going to look at that just now. Uh, what is the reason? Okay, I think we are missing with one. Missing with a binding source and a table adapter for order line. So obviously we'll add a binding source here. We have just dragged this binding source. So this is called binding source 4. This binding source 4 will be, of course, bounded with the data source. The binding source will be bounded with the data member, that is order line. So we got a binding source which is bound with order line, and then order line table adapter is here. So probably that is what we need, and we're going to re-execute this to uh, test our example once again. So let's do that. Again, repeating same steps. Capture some order information, capture some order details in the invoice. So we got book ID 3, and then let's have a book ID 4 for convenience. So this time we're going to just have book ID 4 there. Let's try and probably change this to rather 6. So we go book ID 3 with the quantity 3 and book ID 4 with the quantity 6. Calculate invoice. Finalize sales. Order number is 2063. Okay. And let's see whether we are getting data insertions. So we got an order line table. Still there seems to be a problem with our insertion. Let's see what could be the reason. Let's try again. Uh, yeah, still we have not been getting our insertions. Oh, wait a second. Check. Sometimes the order numbers are a bit erratically arranged here. That's the situation we have. Now we haven't got the order number successful yet. So let's try and see what the problem is. Okay, I think the problem is here now. The problem is that we have missed this update statement. We have to have a table adapter name dot update command executed. and only then the changes that we have made to the table adapter order line, because this changes have been are there in the table adapter order line, but they have not been updated in our real database, in our table inside our real database in SQL Server. So this update command is missing, by the way. So we need to put that up there. Let's do it. Uh, Table adapter dot update command. We need to update this. So far we have this. We're just missing with the update command. So here, so we're going to run an update here, which will be uh, table name adapter dot update command, or the line dot table dot of course update command. And in that update command, we will be having the dataset name dot table name, which is going to be order line. So this is probably the reason why we didn't get this thing into our system. The other small improvement that can be done with the table design is that we can also put a like order number. Where do I have it? Okay, it's here. We can just put a order number there. Also, we can put a lot of other you know information on this invoice. This is label 7. So label 7 would be order number, just to display an order number here. So on click of this, probably we will simply make sure that this label 7 gets it. We can even take the name to make it a little more memorable. We'll call it LBL order number. So it will be easy for us to remember that this is what we have here, just to display the order number. In finalize sales, we can definitely, once we are processing this table order number, we can uh, somewhere display, after we say order has been added, we can say order number is equal to order number colon space. I know we make spelling mistakes when I'm writing something. Order number. So you can see, of course, this has to be converted to string. Uh, Still, there seems to be a problem. Order number dot text, of course, has to be order number dot string. So we're going to get our order number displayed right on our invoice. After we capture this order number, we can display it here. That is something we can do just to give it a little uh, prominence. Just I'll be changing the font size a bit here. Yes, make it bold and make it like stand out a little bit, so we can easily figure out that this is what we have here. Also change the faux color to probably red, to signify that this is what it is. It will stand out a little bit, that's why I'm just doing it. So let's start this. Okay, the selection needs to be done again. Probably I'm using the same book here. This is book number 9. Okay, no problem. Using uh, 6 of this invoice. Calculate invoice. So I've got book ID 3 and 9, and the order value is 2660. I'll click on finalize sales. Order is 2064. I'll click on OK. You can see my new order number is being displayed here, which is useful to, if you want to obviously save this invoice, you will have the order number. And uh, let's see in our table whether we are getting a insert that we need. This time we are getting the insert, although the sequence obviously is a bit, you know, randomized now. This is our, last order number 2064. So you're going to see that in order line table we have two instances of two book IDs 3 and 9. These are the book IDs we have selected 3 and 9. The the order number that was generated is 2064, and the customer ID is 4. So we have these details with us. So 2064, 2064, two instances, book ID 3 and 9, and then we have one book priced as 340, 5 units of it, 340, 5 units of it, and then book ID 9 we have here, uh, 160 and 6 units of it, 160 and 6 units of it. So we got the correct insertion in our order line table. So that is finally working for us. What next we need to do is, of course, you can check our order table back again to see if we are getting the order also inserted. Uh, and you can see that the last order we have here is of course inserted on today's date, and of course the amount is 2660. This was exactly our invoice amount, 2660. I would also advise you to add the VAT component or the tax component in your invoice. That is always uh, useful because it gives the impression that you don't have to sort of inflate the price of your items. Your item separately shows the real price, and then VAT taxes are added to it. So people normally remember the original price of a product, and that gives them an impression that the price is a good price. It's not an expensive price that they are paying for the item. So it makes sense to separate, or rather do a calculation for VAT or taxes separately and then show them on the invoice separately as well. That can be done. Of course, it becomes part of a total order value. So the order value will be calculated, the total will be calculated after adding the taxes to it, but it does, gives a proper breakdown of what is the real cost of the items that a customer is purchasing. And in that way, it will give an impression that the products are not expensive, because customers will always look at the price of the product before the tax is calculated. So that's a good marketing strategy as well, and a good business strategy. So after we have done this, the next thing that we need to do, of course, is that we need to, you know, we need to again update. We need to update the quantity of the items in the stock. So we have, in this case, we have the stock being captured as an attribute in the books table. I mean, like a product table you have, and the quantity here is as one of the fields, as you can see. So we need to again try and deduct the quantity that has been ordered. So say for example, and that is why I had put this quantity on hand here. Now technically this is a issue. I have done it deliberately to show you that if I again go back and then start this order again, say for example, just go back and order this item again. I think it was book ID 3. Will again use same customer ID, and I think I used uh, the book here. Okay, what was that book ID where the quantity on hand was uh, quite? I think was it probably book ID 9, was it? Yeah. So we only have quantity on hand here 3, and we also need to update this. We need to make sure that the quantity of hand changes. One is the validation. The quantity of hand shouldn't be allowed. The order quantity shouldn't be allowed to be anything greater than quantity on hand. As you can see right here, quantity on hand is 3, so there should be a validation to give an error message to say that if you are ordering quantity 4, it should say no, we don't have enough quantity and so forth, and it shouldn't allow you. That is one validation you need. The second is, after you have processed the order and we have done some order processing, this quantity of hand should be changed. So how do you do that? Again, you have to create a couple of you know insert query functions, which is here. So first you have to select the quantity. So what I have done here, I mean, you can implement that differently as well. There is no big deal, but you have to create again some queries, and rather two queries here, two different set of queries. One is a select query. So what are we doing here? We are just created the same that I've demonstrated previously. You're going to create a select query, and in that select query you will be obviously specifying your select query as select quantity from books, where book ID is your parameterized book ID. So you're going to select the book ID, whatever the book ID is. And the second query you would have is going to be the uh, update query that you will be using. So here we have used and this one is being created here. Same, you're going to go and create a query. So the first select query is taking book ID as a parameter. The second one is, so set the properties of the query method to execute mode scalar, because we only want one value, and that one value is the quantity that is returned. Now again, a typical whenever you put a query returns like a data object, and data object can have multiple rows. So if you execute it as scalar, you will only land up with one value. Otherwise you're going to get error coming up. Although you may use different set of code there, where you can use actually a table object. So the return type will be a table object, and then you have to specify table object 0, which stands for first table, and then you have to specify a particular row 0, and then in that way also you can do the same execution, and you can obtain the value. But if you execute that in execute mode is equal to scalar, that will be just returning one value, and that one value that we need to return is basically the quantity. So once we get the quantity, the next thing we need to do is we need to create another query again in that object. We call it as update query, and in that update query we can use update code. So here we have that update code, update books, set quantity is equal to a new quantity value, where the book ID is equal to the book ID. So you have to execute this, and again this has to be updated for all the items that you have in your invoice. So if you order two books, you have to basically do this updation for both the items, both the products in your products table. You have to update their stock level or their quantity, whatever you call it, in your products table for all the items that have been bought, that have been sold basically as part of that sale, and they exist in your invoice, right? So this is the code that you need to execute, and of course, again, a for loop will be there. So for all the items you have, you can see that as the items you have in your data grid view. Uh, so I think this outer for loop is not that important. Basically, it is just to again make sure that you are executing this loop for as many times as you have. So data grid view one.rows.count, that's okay. The main code is this. You have to pick up again that for each loop will come to your rescue. So just look at the for each loop. uh, get a variable like existing row in the dataset.invoice. Here you will be executing this that select query we created, this one here. uh, this is called select queue. I mean, you can give any name to it. The name here this is given to this query is select queue. The query code is like this: select quantity from books where book id is equal to at the rate book id. So once you have that query created, uh, you're going to execute the next one, which is update books, set quantity is equal to new quantity, where the book id is book id. So this is the code for each item in the invoice. Integer quantity, this will capture the value, and since you are executing that as scalar, remember that you will get the output into quantity. So convert in, you have to again use a convert statement, convert typecasting. So books table dot adapter dot select queue, this was the query we created. Again, you have to pass on the parameter as book id. Now book id, remember, it's a int type key value. So you have to again convert that into integer. So convert dot int 32 or int 16 you have to use, and then existing row dot book id, that will be the parameter for the select query. So select query will give you a quantity in return when you're going to supply the book ID to it. So once you have the quantity into quantity, you're going to subtract the quantity. So the new quantity is quantity minus existing row dot quantity. So if you ordered two books and you had like 50 books in your stock, so the new quantity will now be 50 minus existing row quantity, that is two books, that is 48. And then after that you're going to execute the update query that I have just shown you here. Update book, set quantity is equal to new quantity, where book id is equal to at the rate book id. So here again, update query, that is the update query I showed you, will have two parameters as I showed you here. It has two parameters. Basically it will update the quantity, which is the new quantity, and you can see at the rate quantity. So we are giving a new quantity to set, and also we are supplying a book id as a parameter. So two parameters are supplied. One is simply the quantity to update the quantity, and the second obviously is to tell which one, where the book id is existing row dot book id. So if you had selected three books in your invoice table, those three book IDs will be updated, and then the quantity or the stock level of those three books will be subtracted from the real quantity of your database. So this is the overall code. As you can see, I won't be having any more time to implement it. This is the full code. I think it's too in a small font, but I'll rather show you the code working in the example. So that's where I think I can show you. Uh, yeah. So here we have in this example all the code. So we have the, you know, again, as I said, we have the code for you for updating the quantities. So this is just to say, run it for as many items you have in your grid. Uh, so main thing is your for each loop here. I don't think this will make any difference even if you remove it. But main thing is, yes, you have to execute this for every existing row, and every time you are updating for it, you're going to be picking up the quantity using this query that we created, a select query. We call it select queue. Uh, this is the query that is there in the database. You know, this one here. Uh, if I just show you, this is the code: select quantity from books where book ID is equal to at the rate book ID. Uh, as I said, the name of this is select queue. This will execute. And second is the update query, where this query has the code as uh, update books, set the quantity to a new quantity parameter where the book ID is equal to at the rate book ID. So once you execute uh, this one, you're going to see that uh, this one here, this example. So we will execute this. Uh, just select customer. Here, this is obviously another version that was already created. As you can see here, we have even the date displayed and time displayed if that is necessary. Customer ID and customer details are displayed with contact details, and all that is displayed here. Of course, we're going to use the same thing. If we are looking for a particular book, say for example this one here. Uh, See, the stock level is 25 here, and the quantity we have ordered is 5. So we're going to click on add to invoice. Let's add another one here. Probably you will see the problem here. I want to demonstrate the problem. I think it was uh, one of the book IDs. Was it like, yeah, this one here? Book ID 9 has only 3 in stock. So first, you shouldn't be able to order this. And if you do that, like say for example, I'm ordering like 4 of this. You can see now as I click on add to invoice, of course, and I process this. I'll say, now here basically I didn't use that button calculate invoice. I have done it on add to invoice itself. Or probably I have called this function, and I have the finalize order here. Do I also have? Okay, yeah. Let's look at this first. I think that is in a different version now. So let's click on finalize order. So you're going to see this order number is 2065. Okay. Uh, and now if I just want to look at this book ID, in stock number 3, just to confirm uh, whether this is being updated or not. Again, I will look at that particular book ID. I think it was book ID 9. You can see my stock is showing -1. Now, this is something you should avoid. So first thing is, obviously the stock is being updated. That is to show you that I had 3 and I ordered 4. Now I'm with a -1 stock level, which is obviously not a realistic situation. So that is why you need to have validations to prevent that kind of a situation. So you can simply do it by picking up the present quantity and make sure that the present quantity, when you are processing the finalized order, there also if you see that the quantity that you have got here from the table and the quantity that you are ordering should be greater than this. If it is not, then you can probably see that it gives you an error. So this can be executed in many ways. Simply, if you look at this section of code here, uh, this section of code here, uh, here. So right here, also you can have a check. So if this quantity minus the existing row quantity gives you anything like a negative value, so that means this quantity here is 3 minus existing row quantity is 4. So if this gives you like a minus value, so you can put a condition here. If the value of quantity is less than obviously 0, then you can definitely display a message to say the quantity shouldn't be, the quantity ordered is, less is more than the quantity in stock, and you can break this loop with a message. So you can simply use a break statement to break the loop, and then you can display a message, error message, saying that the quantity order quantity should be less than the quantity in stock. So here, right here, you can use that kind of a situation. We've already passed it, but we can try that again. Say, for example, right over here. So you can say if uh, QTY is less than equal to uh, that means yeah, less than equal to, or rather say less than uh, simply 0, then message box, see, expected be less than stock, should not be oh God, greater than, just making it simple here, quantity on hand, right? Quantity on hand, or you can call it as a stock level, whatever you. So that's something, and then you can also say, break break this, loop. That's the message. So in that case, you would be able to prevent that error that just happened. Uh, of course, I need to change the quantity of this item. books with book ID 9 to at least something which I can demonstrate. So this is book ID 9. It's gone -1 now. So let's keep it at 5 and try to order, an item that we have just looked at right now. So it is demonstrated by that one book here. You see, we have a quantity 5 here. Let's try and order quantity 6. Click on add to invoice and click on finalize order. So you're getting new order added. Okay, now this is obviously one of the again error because the order has already been inserted further. This should be definitely also be a check there. Now here say the quantity selected should not be greater than quantity on hand, QOH. So this is something that can prevent you from executing but the problem here is you have to use the logic before even inserting order. So obviously the order has to be inserted uh, only when the quantity on hand is obviously available or is rather more than quantity on. So this obviously is working partially for you, but yes, you can change the logic. Of course, this video has gone too long. I would like to just demonstrate just a few things, about printing and saving this invoice into PDF, and then I will just, call it a day. So there's some code here in the slides which you can utilize for saving this invoice as PDF, and also you can sort of then use this also some code here to print the invoice. So you can also try and use some of this functionality or try and improve on it further. I'll just demonstrate that to you in the example that has been already made available to you online, so you can look at that. So let's quickly run that example here. Okay, this is the final version where we have a save invoice function, a save invoice button rather, to save our invoice as PDF, and a print invoice button. So this code here is the save invoice code, which can save the invoice form as a PDF. Uh, but we may have to like try and hide some controls here, which we don't want to be printed, like especially that search grid. So we can remove that search grid from there. uh, you can of course remove different items by saying that data grid view one dot visible is equal to false, or you can simply use hide function. Like here we have used label dot hide, combo box dot hide, and button dot hide, something we don't need. But then you realize that you can obviously say this hide and that hide. But if you look at this, you want to reduce your code basically. What you can do of course is that you can basically we are hiding the search grid here from. So what you can do is you can put all these set of items which you don't want, because this is only for the searching, the searching the title and searching by publisher and all of that, and these buttons you don't need them on the invoice. So what you can do is you can put them into a group box. So all you do is you select a group box from toolbox. You're going to find it somewhere uh, like here, group box, and just put it down there. Now you can simply hide the group box. So all the items that are covered in a group box, like all these items, like from here, the labels and the boxes, text boxes, even this search grid, data grid, view grid one that we have here, they all will be hidden. and we can simply use the the hide option here. Like I have used group box one dot hide. So rather than hiding multiple items, you can simply hide the group box. Group box works as a collective object, and then all the items that are covered by it are actually associated with that group box. So all these items will be hidden. So that is easier for you to hide certain things, and then you can also hide specific items as you want. Now this code basically comes from internet straight away. So this code basically it can you can do some changes here. Like here some changes have been done by specifying a specific save path. By default, if you use this code, it will just save your running form as a PDF in the debug folder. Now, if you don't want that to be in a debug folder, and you rather want that to be saved, like say for example, in a particular folder, or like in a desktop, like you want to save that on the desktop, so you can easily uh, see it. So here the desktop path has been changed. So environment.get folder path. This is the function used here. Environmental.special folder desktop. Specified the folder name. And once you've done that, the second thing obviously is that you can put that as a file path, and you put that as a file path, and you can specify the path here as whatever the folder name or the folder path is. What else has been done? The file will take the name, so I want to give a name. I want to basically give a name that this should actually be saved by the it should be saved by the first name of the customer, plus it should also have the order number, order number over here. So you can have a concatenated name, or like a customized name created for this file. So we have as you can see here, we're going to see that it will be containing the name of the customer, the order number. So all the invoices will be saved by the order number, as and it will have order number, whatever the order number is, and invoice.pdf. So you're going to have this specifically thing saved. You can customize the saving path, you can customize the file name. These things you can do as improvement. Rest of the code is simply like uh, the code that you have here is basically it does use this code need you to install a package first. Install one of the package is called your NuGet package. That you can do by going to the project and basically go to NuGet packages. So manage NuGet packages. You can click here. Once we have clicked on the NuGet packages, uh, you can click on browse, and in the browse you can select two packages. One is called iText, the other one is called a PDF, something like that. So this is called iText package, iText sharp package. Another is called PDF sharp package. You can use any of these packages. uh, the other one I think is called PDF sharp. Yeah, so PDF sharp packages. So you can use any of these packages, PDF sharp or iText sharp. One of them will do the job for you. You need to just select them and obviously click on you need to select them and click on install button here, so you can install the package. Once you have got this package installed, you need to import them in your uh, form cs file. So here we are having using itextsharp.text and then itextsharp.text.pdf. So these are two sort of basically packages you need. Once you have them, then next thing you can do, of course, is just use this code here that we have right over here. So you can simply use there are, yeah, So you can use this code here for converting or saving this into package. One thing also, you need to have one method, so you need to have a bitmap method here, public bitmap capture form. This will capture the display of the form that is active. It will capture it as a bitmap, and then it writes that bitmap using system drawing method and all of that, and return a bitmap image of that form. So this capture form method is used, and then the other method that you have is save form as PDF, which will take this form object and the file path. Now here we have used this method here, your method save form as PDF over here. So you're going to be using this method right over here. So as you can see, we are using this method just to run this. So we have save form as PDF, and we also have another method that we are using here is capture form. So capture form is here. As I said, the other method is save form as PDF, which is here. And then in that we have used this iTextSharp package to convert that image into a PDF image. And once we have it here, it just it is absolutely there to convert this value for you. Now how to use it? Simply you simply have to call this method right over here. We are using it. So we are using save form as PDF. We are giving this as a current form object and file path. Now this file path, as I said, you can customize it to save it to a specific location, as I've used here as a desktop. You can use that. If you don't do it, by default, it will go to the debug folder. It will go to the current execution location, and which is a debug folder in this case. So here you are using this, method. As I said, save form as PDF method will also give a call to capture form method. Capture form method has to be defined here, which contains a bitmap object, and use system drawing object to kind of draw a bitmap of the form, and that form then can be converted into PDF using this whole code. So here you can specify, of course, the size of the page. Size of the page can be specified as A4 size, as we have done here, portrait. If you don't do that, by default it will just save the form, and normally the form is running in a landscape size. So that can be changed here. What else is there? That is a simple way of that is a not that simple, but some code that obviously would convert your running form into a PDF, and it uses a PDF writer here, as you can see, to convert that into a PDF. So that is one thing. The second thing is, of course, a simple printing method, which is this here at button 6, as you can see in the interface form. So we have a print invoice form. This print invoice button basically again uses a graphics object, uh, and then it captures the graphics object as a bitmap, new BMP, and then it can basically give it as a graphics object for printing. So here you can use two two different objects. One is your print dialog, print preview dialog, and another is document print object. So document print object dot print page can be used. This is the method that you have. Print page, you can use that for printing. So if I just look at this thing, you're going to add two objects here. One is called your print preview dialog. Another is called print document. Now in print preview dialog, you have to give print document, whichever you document you have created. These objects are available under print tab here. So you have a printing tab here, as you can see somewhere. Yeah, right under printing you have print dialog and you have print document. You can also use print preview dialog for having a view of the print that you have. So these are the objects that you can use. I've simply used a print preview dialog and print document. So in print preview dialog, you can give print document object. Here it is print document 1 as a parameter. So once you have given this print document 1 as a parameter, this is good enough to basically invoke a print function and show you the print preview, and that you can obviously print. If you need more printing options, you can have you other objects that are also available, but this will basically give you a simple print dialog, and you can select the printer and you can simply print it. So this is your code for the printing. It declares a bitmap object for the class level, and this is basically code used for printing, right? uh, you know uh, uh, yeah what else you can do is what else you can do here is basically also use a print document one dot print page property, and in that print page property you can specify the object as egraphics draw image. So you basically would be using the print document dot print page property that would be available to you here somewhere in the or is it in the yeah it is on the print document, sorry. So in the print document object you select the print document, and here on print page you can specify print document dot print page. So you can see print document one dot print page. This is now the property you can put on print page. Once you do it, you're going to see that automatically there will be print document dot print page that will be created, and you can just put object name as event object as e dot graphics dot draw image, and you can specify the bmp image, the bitmap image that we have created here to display and to print this image. So if you code is there in the code, final code I have given you on the on the learn site in that C sharp coding section. Just to demonstrate this, I will just execute this quickly for you. So we have selected the customer. Uh, this for the let's use this book here. So then we can probably select another Python. Select 5 of those. It's okay. So we have it here now. Of course, we're going to click on finalize order. I think so. We have new order that is 2067. Okay, we're going to click on save invoice now. Uh, so you can see I have hidden those search grids. Still, it doesn't look very professional, but you can see that this has been hidden now at grid, and I've only left some things. Now, next thing I'm going to do is just keep that in mind that uh, this was uh, customer name was Hasina Parker. So this file will be saved as a PDF file, and it should be on the desktop. Uh, let's look at that. So here we have this invoice, Hasina Parker. You can see that the name of the file itself is being saved by first name of the customer and the order number. So I didn't capture the order number here, but I should have captured that in a label as well. Here you have the file name, as you can see right here. This is the file name that has been saved on your desktop. I have already saved a few more. As you can see, this is for Tom Hanks. Previous order for Tom Hanks. This is it for Tom Hanks earlier that was tested. So you can see you can save the invoice. You can save your invoices as PDF. The next thing what you probably can also do is that, of course, that code I have explained to you, the logic is definitely is that code that is running now. Yeah, click on print invoice. So when you click on print invoice, you're going to get this kind of a dialog box. This is for print invoice. So obviously, you still have to work out the size of grid and all that. It will simply give you, an option to print your invoice. I know the proper printable form of invoice. For that, you need crystal reports, basically, which obviously comes next semester, where you can create a proper printed format. But for the time being, you can sort of generate a invoice. You can also probably create a very minimalistic form, uh, with some data populated in certain controls, and use that to generate a PDF or generate a print of the invoice. That can be done. So you have your print icon here. So obviously, uh, if I have a printer connected, I would be able to print this. Print preview is available. I know it's still not that professional because we still don't have the whole of like label and everything coming up properly, but it will eventually give you an impression that this is how it happens. So this was all about the final version I have uploaded on Learn contains all this code and all this functionality. You can further experiment with it. I've tried and explained to you, how each and every step works. The video has been gone very, very lengthy. I understand that, but you have the choice of pausing it and looking at the code, and probably revisiting the code if you need to understand the logic, and you can do it at your own leisure. There is no hindrance about it. So thank you very much. This is Dr. Deepak Kumar signing off now. Thank you and goodbye.